Tom Bower's explosive book already ripped the lid off Invictus. He said that the event has been hijacked, and now insiders are reportedly demanding that Meghan should be removed completely. Just wait until the end and see why Tom Bower believes Meghan should be removed from the games and why, in his opinion, it is the right decision.
She would have normally been there because Invictus has always been her showcase event. Invictus was Meghan, whether it was in Vancouver or Düsseldorf or The Hague. That is where Meghan was able to star and revive her great image of the smiling Duchess. Now, I think people will say, what on earth is this woman doing here? I think the king right now, his best bet would be to distance himself completely, make it clear to Harry that the Sussexes are not welcome at all in Britain. A pretty narcissist. I think she has been remarkably successful with limited talent. I think now the real story is what I'd call the end game.
Tom Bower is a royal biographer and commentator, and he is one of the go-to voices on stories like this. During the Vancouver Invictus Games, Bower decided to attend the event himself so he could see firsthand how everything was being organized. According to him, what he saw and experienced surprised him. He claims that the games had become more about Meghan Markle than about the wounded veterans they were created to honor. From her outfits to her public appearances, Bower says the focus had shifted away from the competitors. In his view, the wounded veterans who were supposed to be the heart of the event no longer seemed to matter because Meghan had, in his opinion, turned the games into her own fashion runway.
Invictus Games began with a profoundly noble mission to use sport to help recovery for wounded veterans. But lately, the math isn't mathing on their mission and the way that they run their foundation and program.
A growing scandal involving Prince Harry and his last remaining genuine charity project, the Invictus Games. But is it really a charity project at all? Is it just being used as a money-making scheme?
This is why Tom Bower says he referred to the event as the Meghan Games. According to him, cameras frequently shifted away from the wounded veterans and focused instead on Meghan Markle, even while she was simply seated in the audience. Bower argues that the Invictus Games gradually became a publicity platform where Meghan was either showcasing her outfits, displaying what he describes as her fashion style, or drawing attention to her lifestyle brand.
Bower suggests that the 2025 Games in Canada were overshadowed by Meghan Markle's public appearances, referring to the event as the Meghan Games. He cites Canadian executives who allegedly felt Meghan was a distraction and that her presence was more about bling than veteran rehabilitation.
In his opinion, almost every appearance Meghan made seemed designed to improve her own public image, while the veterans who had traveled from all over the world to compete were pushed into the background. Bower even claims that some participants allegedly regretted coming to the Vancouver Games because the spotlight that should have been on their recovery stories had shifted to Meghan Markle instead.
There are some competitors that feel like Harry and Meghan suck all of the oxygen out of the room and it's not about them.
According to Tom Bower, Harry allowed this situation to happen. Bower claims that Meghan convinced Harry that since their Netflix partnership had lost momentum and her lifestyle brand wasn't performing as expected, she should become heavily involved in the Invictus Games. In Bower's view, Harry accepted Meghan's arguments without much resistance and gradually allowed her to take on a much larger role in the games. Bower argues that this turned the Invictus Games into one of the Sussexes' few remaining public platforms where they could continue attracting attention. Because it had become one of the last major events where they could appear before a global audience, Bower believes Meghan used it to her own advantage. According to him, this did not sit well with many of the organizers behind the scenes.
This is a nightmare on wheels. Now, this is seismic. This is the biggest royal story of the year. This is an unmitigated disaster for Harry. This is a nightmare on wheels. This is catastrophic. And the reason why is because Invictus is all he's got.
As Meghan's involvement continued to grow, the Invictus executives became increasingly unhappy. According to Bauer, several senior Canadian organizers were uncomfortable with the level of influence the Sussexes had over the event, especially Meghan's role. Bauer says they were unhappy with how much attention shifted away from the veterans and was directed toward Meghan. Now, there are claims that suggest organizers have begun discussing the 2027 Invictus Games in Birmingham, and they concluded that they no longer want Meghan to have such a prominent role. Bauer also points to reports that one insider allegedly described Meghan as bling, not rehabilitation, suggesting that her presence no longer reflected the original purpose of the games.
He also talks about, and I know for a fact he was there, so he's experiencing these things firsthand, the staged atmosphere. At a 2025 wheelchair basketball match, Bauer claims only 43 paying spectators attended. He alleges that about 100 people were corralled around Harry and Meghan by organizers specifically for photo opportunities to create the false impression of high engagement.
And here's the best part. Everyone is happy with Meghan's absence. The organizers and even the competitors, when they heard the news, many of them were happy and relieved. He claims that some of them felt that, at last, they would be able to compete and win without someone coming all the way from Montecito to overshadow them.
Insiders tell me that the organizers of the Invictus Games were thrilled, were happy when Meghan did not show up. Let me explain. Initially, the whole family was going to be at this celebration of the Games, which are taking place in Birmingham a year from now. However, at the last minute, it became clear Meghan would not be attending because of security concerns.
Bauer also alleges that, before this, some competitors had even considered withdrawing from the Invictus Games because they felt the focus was no longer where it belonged. In his view, they believed they had come to compete and share their recovery stories, only to find themselves being overshadowed. The cameras focused more on Meghan than on the inspiring stories of wounded veterans who had worked so hard to reach that stage.
Describing them as having become a vehicle for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's personal brand, rather than focusing on veterans.
Bauer claims Meghan turned Invictus into her own personal brand campaign. The games reportedly cost 63 million Canadian dollars, with 543 competitors taking part. That is a massive budget, and Bauer says questions started piling up fast. According to him, transparency concerns started spreading behind the scenes. He claims sponsors noticed, and some quietly walked away. In his opinion, they wanted better accountability and better publicity elsewhere. Bauer believes Meghan's self-promotion may have cost Invictus real money.
When you're dealing with taxpayer monies, people are kind of like, hey, why are we not buying prosthetics?
Right. And more importantly, you're right, are the wounded warriors getting this money that they deserve?
According to Bauer's assessment, many people eventually began pointing fingers at Meghan. He argues that if the credibility of the Invictus Games is to be protected, someone has to step away from the spotlight. And in his opinion, Meghan might become that person. Bauer believes her involvement generated too much controversy, and he says the organization is still trying to recover from it. Bauer points to financial figures that are raising eyebrows. He claims direct grants to veterans groups dropped by around 63%, but income, reserves, and executive salaries all went up. Meanwhile, the veterans, the entire reason Invictus exists, reportedly saw less support. Bauer believes this raises serious questions about where the money is being used and where the organization is really headed.
But people are a little upset about where the money is going because right now there's been a 63% drop in actual grants to wounded warriors, despite the fact that they have more money in their bank than ever from carryover. And in Vancouver, they brought in, it was around 62 million. 50% of that was from the government of Canada and BC, meaning that was taxpayers.
Bauer also argues that these controversies influence the decisions of some sponsors. He points to Boeing's decision to end its sponsorship and suggests that the growing controversy surrounding the Games played a role. He also refers to reports that government support from Australia was reduced, although he acknowledges that several factors may have contributed to those decisions. According to Bauer, many sponsors wanted to support wounded veterans rather than become associated with ongoing public controversy. He further claims that some professionals who had previously worked with the Invictus organization chose not to continue their involvement because they no longer felt comfortable with the direction the games were taking.
The question is whether Boeing and the other corporate sponsors stay on board. My suspicion is that they will weigh it up, consider it very carefully. On the one hand, they want to rightly support wounded soldiers and servicemen and women. And on the other hand, do they want to be associated with Harry? The latter, obviously not.
Bauer claims Meghan's image is now tangled up in the Invictus controversy, but insiders say she is not backing away quietly. According to Bauer, visibility is everything to Meghan's brand. He believes she may resist stepping back, even if organizers want her gone. If they review the past events, the organizers will realize that her growing role had become part of the problem. But according to him, Meghan is not the type to give up the spotlight easily.
Whereas Meghan always has to fight for a place. She has to fight for the spotlight. She has to fight to be seen, and being seen is critical to her.
Tom Bauer later concluded that involving Meghan so heavily in the Invictus Games was a major mistake. He argues that the situation could have been avoided if the necessary precautions and protocols had been put in place from the beginning. According to Bauer, anyone familiar with Meghan's public approach would have expected her to use every major opportunity to promote herself and strengthen her personal brand. He claims that whenever Meghan is given a platform, her first priority is often self-promotion and finding ways to benefit her image and her business. In Bauer's view, marrying Harry gave her access to global publicity, and he argues that she has continued to use both Harry and her royal connections to raise her own profile and promote her business ventures. And the Invictus Games became just another branding opportunity for Meghan.
She's bad because she only thinks of herself. She is only focused on self-promotion and self-aggrandizement, profits for her, doesn't care who gets damaged in the way, and has behaved disgracefully and has never made amends. And that is a problem, and has used Harry and abused the royal family. And I think that is really where, in that whole phrase, she's brainwashed Harry, she's now going to get it back in spades.
Wow. Now, Harry isn't in the best state of mind at the moment. According to reports, he is already dealing with the financial pressure created by his recent legal defeat, which could leave him facing high legal costs. At the same time, there are reports that some sponsors have stepped away from supporting the Invictus Games, creating additional financial pressure for the organization. Reports also suggest that only £4 million have been secured yet, and there is still a funding gap of approximately £25 million. According to these reports, Harry has been reaching out to friends and other supporters for help, but many are said to be unwilling to become involved because of the ongoing controversy surrounding both him and the games. In the process, some observers believe Harry's popularity has continued to decline.
Is to raise funds for Invictus Birmingham 2027. He is £25 million short. He has $4 million from corporates and anonymous donors. He needs $25 million more. And this was supposed to be a big triumphant return. He was going to go hand people and really get them to open their wallets. They're not.
As for Meghan, there are also reports suggesting that she has chosen to keep her distance during this difficult period. Some commentators believe she is trying to protect her own public image, especially at a time when Harry is facing increasing scrutiny. According to these reports, Meghan has remained largely out of sight while Harry deals with both legal and financial pressure. Some people believe she understands that appearing too closely alongside Harry during this period could also affect how the public views her, so she is being much more cautious about where and when she appears.
It is fascinating to watch how a couple have blown it, have now, in their desperation, gone to self-destruct mode.
Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think reducing Meghan Markle's involvement in the Invictus Games would help bring the focus back to the wounded veterans? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you in the next video.